Well, good morning, everybody. This is Gulf Harbour Radio. Patricia and David, ZMH286. And this is the very famous last day of the season for us. Talking to a very few of you who are still out there and making your way south or making your decisions or whatever it is that you're doing. It will be warmer wherever you are than it is here. We have another miserable day, except it's actually getting warmer. 15 degrees today. This is our one day in between the misery of the previous days and what's coming in the weekend for us. 15 degrees and it's fine. 1009.2, steady on the bar. No wind from the southwest. I always think that sounds a bit Irish, but you'll know what I mean. And certainly Trigger knows what I mean. It's high overcast. It's looking fairly thin, but who knows what's going on up there. So there you have it. A few reports in. Trigger on their way to Minerva, and they have pretty much no wind from the east. He's at 22 and 179.47 west, just crossed the date line, and not much happening there. 1017 flat seas and nice and sunny. Rasa, pretty much the same, really. Trace small wind. They're on their way from New Caledonia. They're at 2542 and 168 east with less than 5 knots of northerly. Swell very low, half a metre, 60% cloud cover, 1010. And let's look at Shisan going north. Thank you for that report. It's quite squally and not very pleasant in the trophic conditions getting to Tuvalu. There it's 11:32 south they are, 11:32, 179.37 east, 15 knots from the southeast unless you're in a squall, in which case it's 20 to 25 knots. So using the radar there to try and dodge them or at least know that they're coming. So pretty trophy up there by the sound of what David commented on before. So it's a good spread around the different tracks of where people are going. And we hope all is well with everybody there. All right, I am going to do my last news roundup of the season. Not an awful lot going on around the world. I wonder if I'll still read all these different news sources over the next 5 months that we won't be talking to you, but it is quite interesting seeing what's going on in the world. Let's start with South Korea, because we don't often get an awful lot from Asia. I'm not sure that you'll really want to hear this, but and this is sort of a good news story, the largest slaughterhouse for dogs has been closed down. Now, I didn't know, and I bet you didn't know either, that South Korea is the only country in Asia where dogs are routinely and intensively actually farmed for human consumption. Around 2 million dogs are kept in around 17,000 facilities in North Korea. So people are hoping that the closure of this largest one will sort of help the situation. Dog meat consumption is actually dropping in Korea, especially amongst the younger eaters. But dog ownership is rising. They've now got an ownership rate of about 28%. So I guess they're sort of valuing the dogs more for...
They're just fattening them up.
Maybe they're fattening them up for emergencies, like these people going to Minerva. They might need to have sort of something on hand in case they need it. All right, so moving on from there. It's very, very cold in the northeast, particularly of America, where Thanksgiving is one of the coldest Thanksgivings they've had since records began. In New York, where they really get into Thanksgiving, it's 17F. 17F. You can get out your calculators for that one. 30-mile-per-hour winds for the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. In Boston, not much better, 20F.
We often got snow.
35 miles per hour winds there. Well, you often got snow when you were a kid on Long Island on Thanksgiving? Yeah. Wow. Well, I bet you didn't stand out. Evidently, some people are camping out for the big sales tomorrow. After Thanksgiving, which is on a Thursday, which it is there, they have huge sales the day after, any excuse to get people into the shops. and they're already camping outside shops like Amazon. I didn't know Amazon had a store there, but anyway, I would have thought Macy's would have.
That's the middle one.
Macy's. Well, Amazon have a big store, and so people are camping out for the sales tomorrow in 17 degrees F. Well, meanwhile, in Australia, quite the opposite, a huge dust storm is sweeping across the southeast. I guess we're going to see that at some stage in the future, just as the east coast of America is seen and having some beautiful, beautiful sunsets because of the fires from California. They have now, the dust has arrived on the east coast of America, and I can remember when I lived in Philadelphia, we used to get magnificent sunsets if there was fires in California. But anyway, in Australia, getting back to them, there's a big red haze in the southeast, and authorities have actually issued an air quality warning for people in Sydney. This thing is about 500 kilometres in length, sweeping across. I'm not sure what prompted that. Presumably some weather system over there encouraged that. Bit of chaos in London because the protesters are blocking streets. It's not Brexit that they're protesting about, it's climate change.
Oh,
three-day disruption, so you wouldn't want to be trying to drive in London. Evidently they have issued warnings to drivers that if you hit demonstrators, you will be charged. Actually, talking about climate change, Mr. Trump has declared that he is incredibly correct about the absence of climate change, given that the temperatures on the East Coast are the coldest they've been since records began on Thanksgiving Day. So that is absolute proof that there is no climate change. I have to sort of agree with him. When you wake up at this time of the year in New Zealand to 15 degrees, and we've had 13s and 14s and snow and hail and all the rest of it down south, it's really, really hard to convince yourself that there is a problem with climate change. Okay, another animal story here. Pennsylvania, a huge 700-pound black bear was shot dead by a hunter only 5 yards away from him on the first day of what they have annually, a 3-day annual bear hunt. It wasn't the biggest bear. There was a 780-pound male bear also killed on the first day. 1,200 killed on one day. Amazing, isn't it? There's 170,000 hunters, roughly, take advantage of this 3-day shooting period. And over those 3 days, usually each year, they get between 3,000 and 4,000 bears killed. I absolutely never knew that there were so many black bears in Pennsylvania. Did you know that?
In the hills there,
in the hills? Wow. That's amazing. Huge things. And this guy that shot the big one only 7 yards away, he did it with a handgun. So I bet it was sort of, he was scared.
Well, there's a method of putting that.
Is it? Well, they also have another period that they can shoot them with bows and arrows.
Yeah, well, good luck if you're that guy.
And that is very, very popular, evidently. Yeah. So there you go. Well, of course, the biggest news is that this is our last day for the year, and we now have 5 months to do what you do, actually. Use our boat, go after our hobbies, and generally enjoy what hopefully will be better weather than we've got at the moment. Oh, I should add that there was a couple of other bits here. In Australia, Scott Morrison, he's the Prime Minister, in case you've forgotten. He's the Prime Minister, and he has revealed plans to enable the government to strip citizenship from people that are extremists. This follows, in fact, he's going to try and get this through before they all break for the summer holiday, but it follows on from the Somali problem in Melbourne. So they're really moving to try and do something about these extremists that hop over to Syria and places and come back rearing to go in a place that's given them shelter. And he's decided if they don't conform to what Australia stands for, then out they go. All right, so that's the news. I'm just having a look at streaming here to see what it's like in Suva. And it's 1014.7 and sunny, 20% cloud, no wind. Citrus tart's going to take off tomorrow. loaded with food and fishing gear so that he has plenty to eat if he gets stuck in Minerva. And good morning to Nessa Troy. They've moved down to Whangarei where it's overcast like here. 17 degrees though. They've got a couple more than we have, and 5 knots from the northwest. And good morning to the Villamies, still up there in Opua, and wishing us a good break. Well, it's very nice. Thank you, Trevor and Jan. They actually popped down here the other day. It was lovely to see them. And morning from Wellington. Well, that's the other half of Citrus Start, and it's pretty chilly down there, 12 degrees and non-stop. And David's just disappeared from the radio room to get his glasses. It's very useful to be able to see the screens, isn't it? And another thank you from Peter and Alan. Thank you very much. And it's a very hot day in Fiji today. So that's good news. And thank you very much, everybody, for your support, particularly our supporters, actually, that have come through over this period. We very much enjoy, actually, doing what we do to help people up, and glad it's useful. I'm just looking at the satellite picture here at the moment, and it does look actually pretty nice throughout the Pacific, except for those folk trying to get north, of course. It's a bit sort of rough up there, but not too bad in the South Pacific, except for that band that goes from New Zealand through to the top into Queensland there.
Sorry.
All right, so the boss is back again now, and we will get on to the weather, which is fairly extensive today. And just a reminder that those people that are still out there, our email address is ghradio@extra.co.nz if you are looking to need some weather over the holiday period. Here's David, but not New Zealand.
Yep, good morning. And, well, here we are. As Trish said, the last day of radio broadcasting this season went pretty fast. And as most of our listeners are underway, I think we're just going to start off with the synoptic picture and go from there. Now, as we look at New Zealand itself, as Patricia said, it's mostly clear of the myriad of troughs that we've had over the last few days, but this is not going to last long, for sure. The complex low system that we've had is now east of the country. There's about 3 low centers, and there's more than 3, but 3 are at about 33 south, east of New Zealand, and they're all spreading out troughs. Well, looks like an octopus, frankly. Now, one low by lunch today is going to be near 33 and the dateline, and it has a warm front that's spreading west to just about touching North Cape. Then it's going to hook up with a warm front that's emanating from the Tasman Depression. Now, we talked about that yesterday. It's located today roughly 38 south and 152 east. That's 38 and 152. Now, this is a pretty nasty depression. The central pressure is estimated to be 997, 9 or 9 or 7 millibar. Now, by tonight, this depression is just going to move east a wee bit, hardly at all. Probably get to maybe 155 east. Its warm front, though, is going to be sitting, well, it's going to be sitting over Gulf Harbor Radio, pretty much, with a cold front behind it. And that cold front is going to arc north and west, and it'll make landfall in Australia near Bundaberg, maybe a little bit north of Bundaberg. So winds then from Newcastle to New Zealand are going to be essentially northwest, give or take on that. Now, our week high that we talked about last couple of days is still up there. It's going to sit south of Fiji by lunch, still about 1017 millibar, 1017. Now, by Sunday, our Tasman Depression, well, it won't have moved very much at all. Still sitting under the 500 millibar closed low, but there is a secondary surface low that's popping up just off of 90 Mile Beach on the west side of the North Island. So with all of this cyclonic activity, if you were to look at the isobars, we have cyclonic isobars covering virtually the entire Tasman, and that includes the run lines from Fiji, Vanuatu, Newcastle, all the way to New Zealand. So that whole entire area is going to have essentially westerly type winds, whether they be north, northwest, northwest, west, whatever. But it's going to be roughly that direction. Now, by Monday, very early, the Tasman Depression, still there. Boy, it remains near 160 east, 160 east. But another secondary forms just to the west of the South Island now. And cyclonic flow is going to continue in all of the Tasman and most of the cruising routes as well. Now, a frontal band is going to move from this depression to New Zealand by tomorrow, and it'll be in full swing on Sunday. We're going to have quite a bit of activity here in New Zealand Saturday and Sunday. Sunday, unfortunately, being the worst. That's our shooting day. The front is going to extend all the way up to Newcastle and probably get to Minerva, I would guess about Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. Won't be very strong, but that's about when it should arrive from what I could see. Now, winds behind this front will be westerly quadrant. They could be west, they could be west-northwest, anywhere in there. Now, a second depression looks to form and lie in the Tasman. I'll give you some dates, about November 29th to 30. And its cold front will reach New Zealand roughly Friday, that's the 30th. And that will extend to just to the southwest of Newcastle, just about getting to Newcastle, not quite. So those in the cruising routes should attempt to arrive in New Zealand before that, before Thursday the 29th. And of course, northerlies are going to precede the front, northerlies of some sort. Now, up in the tropics, our Solomon's Trough remains in place, which is normal. And this sounds like a broken record, I'm sure, but this is the hot pool area, and that's where we find our trough. There it is. Extends to Rotuma, Wallis, and Futuna. It goes to northern Tonga, meeting New Potatoes, and then on to Niue and to the southern Cooks. Now, the only other trough that's organized runs from pretty close to Tuvalu to Tokelau, and then, of course, it goes to the northern Cooks. All right, briefly, Tonga looks pretty good on imagery. Scattered cloud, that's about it. Plenty of blue sky. Now, this morning, the VAL reports variable conditions, scattered to broken skies, high relative humidity, and the barometer 1014. The Hapai is calm as well, scattered cloud, also 1014. Tongatapu, calm, scattered, barometer 1014. No gradient, so very, very little wind. So the winds today, I'm going to forecast southeast 10 to 15 by around lunchtime, and pretty much the same thing tomorrow. The wind shifts starting Wednesday, so I would expect northerlies then, probably 10 to 15 knots, and then we're going to see a shift to westerlies. So that's Tonga. Fiji shows scattered cloud, and some of it is in fact rain bearing. So for the most part, though, fair weather, and we'll just say occasional showers. I don't see the next frontal band from New Zealand to affect Fiji until next week, and when it does, it looks pretty weak. So winds today, east to east-southeast in the 15-knot range, and the same on Saturday. Sunday, we may see a shift to northeasterlies, light to moderate. I would say Monday and Tuesday expect north-northeast, fairly light air as well, 10 to 15 knots. Then around Thursday of next week, the possible frontal band will arrive from New Zealand. And Vanuatu looks good on imagery, just scattered cloud. Most of that is in the north. Winds today by lunch, easterlies from the banks down to, almost down to Afate, and then east-northeast from there to Anishu. All light to moderate, we'll call it 10 to 15. Tomorrow, we'll see a shift to the northeast. Again, a pretty good opportunity to move south within the chain. And Sunday is going to be a mix of northerlies and possibly northwest, all about 10 to 15. And all this, of course, is the expected trough from New Zealand arriving in the Vanuatu area. NewCal shows quite a bit of cloud in the southern lagoon on the satellite. Winds northwest in our area, probably around 10 knots, but with some rain showers. Tomorrow, westerlies about 10 to 15 in the southern lagoon, possible northerlies at Ile de Pan, and they'll be shifting to west-northwest a little bit later. On Sunday, west-northwest 15 to 20, and cloudy with a chance of showers for NewCal. And all that's part of the frontal bands, weak bands that are sticking up there from New Zealand. Okay, that's the end of that. Now I wanted to chat a bit about Minerva, and those of you in Minerva or about to get to Minerva will be having a good time, or having a good time if you're already there. Although how to escape to New Zealand is going to be a challenging head scratcher as far as I can see. Now we've got a 4 to 5 day run to consider, so that's about how long it takes from Minerva to New Zealand. That's about what it takes us. And there is going to be cyclonic flow to consider for virtually this whole period. So what I've done is discounting the frontal bands. I've just picked Saturday as a leaving day. So this is the approximate winds I think that you would need to consider over the next 5 days. So on Saturday, which is the 24th, I think, it looks like northwest, light northwest winds, about 10 knots or so. On Sunday, you'll be about 27.4 south, north-northwest in the 15 knot range. On Monday, be about 29.6, not quite to 30. That's on Monday. North-northwest, mostly 15, maybe 15 to 20 is possible. So you're saying, well, that's okay, and it is. But Tuesday, I've got northwest 30, and this is at 32 south, and this is the 27th, so that's Tuesday of this coming week, northwest 30. And then on Wednesday, if you keep going, on 34.4, roughly, not quite 35, northwest to west-southwest, 30 to 35 knots. That's a 3-0 and a 3-5. So though looking at your grids, you'll see lighter air to the west and stronger air to the east. So somehow or other, if you were able to get west a bit, you'll escape quite a bit of the strong wind. And then on the 29th, which is Thursday, you would be in at that point, and you would expect southwest winds about 20 to 25. Now, in the Monday-Tuesday time frame, there'll be a frontal band that will run roughly from New Caledonia to about 30 and 175 west. So you can, in pencil, draw a little line from those 2 points, from New Cal to 30 and 175. And at some point, if you're on your way, you'll have to negotiate this band. Now, Wednesday and Thursday, the actual depression itself, the rotary part of the depression, is going to lie over the North Island. And obviously, cyclonic winds are going to prevail then. Now, we've got a second front from another depression that's going to arrive over New Zealand. This is the one that will extend to NewCal that I talked about a few minutes ago. And that'll happen roughly Friday the 30th. So one possible plan for you is to sail at a rather slow rate of knots, or not even leave on Saturday. This is starting Saturday. You may delay it even, but the whole point is to go slow. Intercept that first front on Tuesday sometime, not much beyond 30 south, in other words, north of 30 south, and virtually heave to. at that point. Unheard of, right? But just stop. Wait for the front to pass and wait for the depression over New Zealand to do its thing and start to move off. Then go like the clappers to arrive New Zealand early Friday to beat the next front. Now, the area of strong winds on Wednesday or so is going to be around 34 south, so you really don't want to be right in that area. You want to be north of 34 by then. Now, of course, there's variations on this theme. Again, this is not advice. We don't give advice here. It's up to you to negotiate this little bit of bother. Now, while we're not on the radio next week, I feel pretty bad about this. Feel free to bounce your ideas off if you want via email. You could even appoint one boat as the emailer and then pass on whatever I give you to the other boats. That works. We've done that before quite a few times. So that's it from what I could see. The other choice, of course, is just to stay there and have a good time in Minerva. We know boats that have stayed a couple of weeks there and just totally enjoyed the place. Now, a couple of other things here before I quit. One is the boats going up to Funafuti. There is a lot of troughing activity that is going to be occurring for the next couple of days. So you could expect cloud showers. We've already got reports of squalls and whatnot. So I'll just take a look right now. Pardon this. So we'll go take a look at Saturday up there toward Funafuti. The winds are going to be basically easterly on your journey up. Quite a few of the boats are about 9, 10 south, Funafuti being around 6. Above 5 south, the winds are starting to turn toward the north, so east, northeast, that sort of thing. On Sunday, Funafuti is going to have northerly quadrant winds, I'm afraid, and you will have your trough on Sunday. I'm pretty certain of that. So you're going to have easterlies below 10, and then around the 8, 5, 6, 7, 8 south, you're going to have northerly quadrant, north, northeast, that type of thing. And then on Monday, you're still going to have, I think, troughing conditions. There may be a small low pressure area forming there. And you'll have southeast winds converging with northeast winds. So that's the Funafuti part of it. These winds are not all that strong, but those of you that have experienced the thunderstorms that are associated with these tropical monsters know what wind is all about. And of course, you get your wind shifts as well. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the first week of December. Now, GFS is still calling for this depression to form a little bit to the north, and then by the 6th, 7th, 8th of December, moving south of Fiji. Not a very nice looking depression. Now, again, we talked about how GFS tends to work these things up, and often they don't amount to a hill of beans, but this looks like it could be a hill of beans. And just be careful. I don't know where anybody is going to be on the first week of December. If you're still up in Fiji, and this thing does flop over the top of you, then make sure you're in an area where you've got protection and you've got some good holding. If you're in Minerva at that time, it'll be a little rough, but it's all doable. Boats have ridden out very strong gales there, and as long as you're anchoring in sand, which is mostly there anyhow, and stay away from the bommies, you'll be fine. A lot of boats put out 2 anchors. A lot put out all the chain they've got in the locker, which is always a good idea. So that's all doable if you wanted to sit this out if it happens in Minerva. That is all I've got. If you've got any questions, come now. And again, we will make ourselves available for sure on email next week for all of you that are underway. And even if you're pretty satisfied with what you're seeing, if you just want to bounce off that with us, that's fine. It's no worries. The Minerva boats, again, it would be better if just one boat rode in and then passed it on to the other boats. I'm not a very fast typer, but we'll get an answer to you. So here's the chief.
All right, I think you, well, while you've got your crystal ball being dusted off there, can you have a look at when possibly the next window from Fiji would be for people that are still there? And I know we've got a boat in, we've got Y2K in Tonga. They seem to be quite happy though. And we've got a boat in New Caledonia that we know of. So yeah, just have a look long range. The NIWA people, of course, are saying that we're going to have all this disturbance to mid-December. But anyway, let's have a look at that. And I'm going to give Quintessa a call. Quintessa, Gulf Harbour. Nothing heard there. Is there anybody else wanting anything? Please call now. Thanks, Chris, and back to David.
Well, another window to New Zealand is that's really a tough one. But if you're up in Fiji, Tonga, you may want to look at around the 28th of this month. What's that? Wednesday. There's some pretty good weather, it looks like, in both Fiji and Tonga. The wind directions aren't so good, but the winds are light. Maybe a little bit of tacking involved. There'll be a weather front that'll go over New Zealand, but you'll be north of that. And then from then on to the first part of December, very light air getting into New Zealand. Then the air gets very nice around the 5th and 6th. Now, I warned you about the depression, but that's well to the north if it happens. So you would be south of that. We've got a very big high, it looks like, that'll be over in New Zealand on the 6th, in fact. So right in that area, the tail end of November going into the first week of December, that very well could be a window here. Yeah, that's what it looks like now. So anyhow, just keep your eyes open, keep looking at the models, and hopefully that'll get you out. But just be very careful about this last depression that I talked about. Okay.
All right, and we're looking forward to sleeping in tomorrow. I bet we don't. Is there anybody else before we shut it down? Oh, and there's Rouser, and you probably would like to look ahead a little bit more. I guess you've got the engine on at the moment. Go ahead, Rouser.
We just want to say thank you very much for all your help this season. Thank you.
Wow, your signal really came up. That's an amazing signal, Giles, and thank you very much for that. And thank you for the others that have put us, and thank you onto the streaming and emails. We will be back next year, May 1. Hope we get a decent season. I'm sure everybody's looking forward to a decent sunny season here. Okay, yep, you guys look as if you're going pretty well there, so hopefully it will continue. Anybody else? Yeah, go ahead, Chris. Okay, after the 29th, are you seeing easterlies or southeasterlies? What are you having a look at? Just these scrolling ahead here on the screen. It's amazing this computer is still going, the treatment it gets. Here he is.
Right. Well, up in the Minerva area, from what I could see on the 29th, looks like it's going to be southeast winds. You're almost in the middle of a high, so it's very light air. And you have a frontal band that's just about over New Zealand, and that's the one that's just about touching New Caledonia at that point. Then the winds slowly back to become northerly as this frontal band comes in. So that's the story there. What were you thinking about? Just hanging out until then, or what? Over.
But then only meeting like the only chance I see it for the group diagram
Yeah, after that front goes by, if you were still hanging out in Minerva, like looking at the 1st of December through, say, the 3rd, there's a small high to the south of New Cal, and that depression over New Zealand is unfortunately going to provide westerlies up to about 30 south. So if you were to leave Minerva at that point, you'd you'd probably have to tack. And then along about, like I said, the 5th and 6th, southeast winds. That's the start of the new high. The high is going to be in the center of the Tasman, and the ridge is going to extend to the northeast. So your winds from Minerva to New Zealand would be southeast and fairly light at that point. That's the 6th. And then along about the 7th and 8th, they're going to go easterlies, but a swash zone is going to start. If in fact that low forms and moves south, it's going to push against that high, which is now going to be drifting to the east of New Zealand, going to compress those isobars, and we're going to have a lot of wind between Minerva and New Zealand, but they'll be easterlies. Over.
Alrighty, no problem, and no problem for anyone keeping in contact just to confirm that with the browser, particularly when there's a feature coming up, just to make sure you know about it. Alright, anybody else? The pause was I was just reading a couple of emails here. Alright, well that looks like about it then. And, well, I don't know what we're going to be doing this time in the following mornings, reading the paper, drinking coffee, just generally waiting for the weather to warm up, I suppose. All right, folks, thanks for your support this year, and we will see you all on the radio again next year. Cheers all, the frequency's all yours. No sign of contest.